Welcome back to This Explainer. Okay, today we're exploring what is arguably one of the most touching true stories ever recorded. We're talking about a dog, specifically an Akita, who waited almost a decade at a bustling train station for a master who was never coming home. It's one of those tales that has literally crossed oceans, inspired major Hollywood films, and actually shaped the physical landscape of Tokyo itself.
It really makes you wonder, what drives a dog to wait 10 years for a master who will never return? It's this profound emotional mystery, right? And it's captivated people for a full century now. So as we go through this explainer today, we aren't just going to rehash the famous story. We're going to dig into the history, the cultural impact, and even some pretty recent scientific discoveries that finally solved a 75-year-old mystery about this legendary animal. You know, Saito Hirokichi, he's the founder of the Japanese Dog Preservation Society. He absolutely hit the nail on the head. He pointed out that while we humans look at this and see a story of honorable service or maybe a sense of obligation, for the dog, it was simply pure, unadulterated affection. As he put it, it is unconditional and absolute love. But to really wrap our heads around that kind of love, we first need to look at exactly where this dog came from.
Section 1. Origins of the Akita, a Japanese breed.
So before we formally meet our protagonists, let's talk about the breed itself, because they carry centuries of history. These dogs were bred in the snowy, mountainous regions of Akita Prefecture in Japan. Originally, these powerhouse dogs were used by the Japanese elite to hunt large game. We're talking bears, deer, wild boar, the whole shebang. The Akita Inu is a large, incredibly robust dog known for this thick double coat that's perfectly suited for harsh, freezing climates. But beyond their sheer physical strength, they've got this beautiful, gentle composure and a fiercely independent yet fiercely loyal nature. In fact, their cultural significance is so massive that back in 1931, the Japanese government actually designated the Akita breed as a natural monument. Even in folklore, giving someone an Akita statue is literally wishing them prosperity, health, and protection.
Section 2. A sudden, tragic separation. Professor Ueno and Hachi. Now our story officially kicks off in early 1924. Professor Hidesaburo Ueno, a faculty member at Tokyo Imperial University's Department of Agriculture, was looking for a purebred Japanese dog. A former student managed to find this tiny, rather frail Akita puppy for him at a farm in Odette. Picture this. It's a snowy day in January, and this little 50-day-old pup is bundled up inside a rice bag, just to keep warm, sent on a 20-hour train journey all the way to Ueno Station in Tokyo. The professor and his wife, Yae, didn't have any children, so they absolutely doted on this little guy. Ueno named him Hachi, which actually means 8 in Japanese. He chose it because of the sturdy, slightly bowed shape his forelegs made when he stood, like the kanji for the number 8. And man, Ueno spoiled him. He even let the frail pup sleep right under his bed and eat meals with him. Thanks to all that love, Hachi grew up into this magnificent, sturdy Akita.
But here's the heartbreaking part. Their time together was actually incredibly short. Look at this timeline. Hachi is born in November 1923, adopted in January 1924, and then tragedy strikes on May 21st, 1925. Over those 16 months, Hachi had developed this adorable routine. He'd walk the professor to Shibuya Station every single morning and then go back to greet him every evening. But on that fateful day in May, Dr. Ueno suffered a sudden, fatal cerebral hemorrhage during a faculty meeting. He was only 53 years old, and he never came back on that train. Section 3. 10 Years of Waiting. A Loyal Vigil.
So, Hachi goes to the station that evening just like always, but his master doesn't show up. Sensing something was terribly wrong, this grieving dog goes back home, curls up with the exact clothes the professor had worn that day, and absolutely refuses to eat for 3 days straight. Eventually, Hachi is sent to live with relatives miles away in places like Asasaka, but he wouldn't stay. He repeatedly ran all the way back to Shibuya Station. 9 years, 9 months, and 15 days. That is exactly how long Hachi waited. He finally moved in with Ueno's former gardener, who lived closer to the station. And from then on, every single morning and evening, perfectly matching the train schedules, Hachi would wait outside those ticket gates. Through torrential rain, freezing snow, blistering heat, he was always there. To put that into perspective, in human years, that equals roughly 70 to 90 years of absolute, unwavering devotion. It's staggering.
Now, at first, Hachi was kind of viewed as a nuisance by all the busy commuters and station staff. They were just trying to get to work. But that completely flipped in 1932. One of Dr. Ueno's former students, Saito Hirokichi, the guy we quoted earlier, wrote a newspaper article for the Asahi Shimbun about this incredibly faithful dog. And overnight, the story spread like wildfire. Hachi was granted the honorific title Hachiko and became an absolute national sensation. People from all over Japan started mailing in donations just to make sure he was fed, and the station workers completely changed their tune and began actively caring for him.
Okay, let's dive into this next part. Section 4, Dispelling the Yakitori Myth, Solving a Mystery.
Sadly, Hachiko passed away on March 8, 1935. He was found near the Shibuya River. But for the next 75 years, there was this very specific, kind of strange rumor circulating about exactly how he died. It's actually a fascinating look at how urban legends form and how modern science can step in and finally set the record straight. For decades, the legend went that Hachiko died because he greedily wolfed down yakitori, those Japanese grilled chicken skewers, given to him by a street vendor, and the wooden sticks fatally ruptured his stomach. Well, in 2011, veterinarians at the University of Tokyo decided to examine Hachiko's internal organs, which had thankfully been preserved in formalin since his autopsy back in 1935. Looking through modern microscopes, the scientific reality was totally different. It turns out Hachiko was actually suffering from severe dirofilariosis, which is a massive filarial heartworm infection, along with terminal lung carcinosarcoma, a type of cancer.
But wait, here's the crazy part. The urban legend wasn't entirely made up. The scientists actually did find 4 yakitori sticks sitting right there in Hachiko's stomach. I mean, the dog clearly loved the chicken the Shibuya vendors tossed his way. However, the researchers confirmed those sticks caused absolutely zero damage to his stomach lining. The skewers had nothing to do with his passing. The reality was just cancer and heartworms finally taking their toll on an old, incredibly loyal friend.
Section 5. An Immortal Cultural Legacy. Hachiko in Culture.
So, Hachiko's physical life ended in 1935. But his story, that was really just beginning its journey around the globe. The impact this one animal had on culture is just mind-blowing. Even before World War II, the legendary American educator Helen Keller visited Japan, heard this tale, and was so deeply moved that she actually requested an Akita of her own. She ended up receiving them in 1937 and 1939. Fast forward to 2009, and Hollywood gets involved. Richard Gere produces and stars in an American film adaptation that introduces Hachiko to millions of people worldwide. And today, if you visit Tokyo, you can actually see Hachiko's preserved taxidermied body on display at the National Science Museum. But his spirit, his actual remains, those were buried in Aoyama Cemetery, placed right beside the resting place of his beloved Dr. Ueno, exactly where he belongs.
Of course, we absolutely cannot talk about Hachiko without talking about his most famous tribute. That bronze statue outside Shibuya Station is easily Tokyo's most famous meeting spot. And this is wild. The original statue was actually erected in 1934 while Hachiko was still alive. He literally attended his own unveiling ceremony. Now, unfortunately, that original bronze had to be melted down during World War II for the metal collection effort. But a new one was triumphantly rebuilt in 1948, and it's still there today, standing right amid those towering skyscrapers, serving as this quiet, steadfast symbol of devotion right in the middle of one of the busiest intersections on planet Earth.
But there's actually another statue that gives us this beautiful, emotional closure to the story. While the Shibuya statue shows Hachiko waiting all alone, the University of Tokyo stepped up in 2015, which marked the 80th anniversary of his passing, and they erected a new bronze statue right on their campus. And this one depicts a joyous, beautiful scene, Hachiko jumping up, tail wagging frantically, finally reunited with Professor Ueno after 90 years of separation. It is just such a deeply emotional tribute, put together by volunteers and university faculty.
100. The year 2023 marked the 100th anniversary of Hachiko's birth, and let me tell you, they went all out. The University of Tokyo organized these massive events, handed out thousands of seasonal Hachiko stickers, cultivated Hachiko-themed apples. They even served Hachiko ramen with little fish cakes shaped like his silhouette. There's even a student group literally called the U-Tokyo Students Who Love Hachiko that continues to hold festivals in his honor. A full century later, the love for this dog has not faded one single inch.
So, it leaves us with something to think about. In our incredibly fast-paced modern world, right? We're surrounded by endless digital distractions and super fleeting connections. Where else can we find such enduring, absolute, unconditional loyalty? Hachiko's 10-year vigil at Shibuya Station is this powerful reminder of the profound, pure affection that animals bring into our lives. It really challenges us to remember the power of true dedication. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And hey, next time you find yourself waiting for someone, maybe think of Hachi. See you next time.